After living on the road for 2 years, we've learned some travel hacks of how we can continue exploring on the road, but meanwhile being on a budget. In this past week, we just got done exploring the Adirondacks and specifically staying in Lake Placid for a week and spending just under $250. This is how we did it. So if you're not familiar, the Adirondacks are a mountain range that's in upstate New York. And in the Adirondacks is a super cute mountain town known as Lake Placid. Lake Placid gets its fame from the 1980s Miracle on Ice game that took place, which if you've seen the Disney movie Miracle,
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
you'll know the spot. But Lake Placid, being a mountain town, it also carries mountain town prices. So when we were first looking at staying in this area, we were pretty surprised by some of the prices that came along with it. So we're gonna go over 3 hacks of how we were able to stay in this place and save over $500 doing so. All right, hack number 1 is stay smart, not expensive. So anytime we're going to a new area and looking for places to stay, typically, our first option is looking at boondocking options. So pretty much free places to camp that provide no hookups. Because in our rig, we have solar, we have battery, and we carry 36 gallons of fresh water. So it's plenty enough for us to last a week off-grid. In Lake Placid, there were 0 boondocking options. We use apps like iOverlander, and also we took a look at Harvest Host, and there was nothing that fit our criteria for a place being able to stay. With no boondocking options available, the next thing we look at is state parks in the area. The tricky thing with state parks is that since Brendan and I both work remote, we need sky view for our Starlink. So Starlink essentially needs a clear view of the sky in order for us to have reliable Wi-Fi, so that way we can work from it. A lot of state parks tend to be very overcrowded with trees, so we always take a look at satellite view on Google Maps when looking at state parks to ensure that we can have a clear sky view. There's 2 state or New York parks in the area, being Meadowbrook and Wilmington Notch parks that you can stay at, and they're actually very reasonable in cost. However, they have 0 sky view available. So if Starlink is a necessity for you, these options are not going to work. And also, we happen to be camping with our friends that have a 42-foot fifth wheel, and neither of these campgrounds could accommodate a rig of that size. So with boondocking and state parks out of the question, at this point, we turn into looking at private campgrounds. So scouring the web, we quickly found it seemed like one of the only options was Lake Placid KOA, which KOAs are known for being expensive, but my goodness, this one definitely was more expensive than we were expecting. During the dates that we were looking at, this KOA started at $125 a night, with the most expensive site being $175 a night. Maybe in an instance, I would pay this amount if I was really dying to go to some place that was very high in demand. Honestly, Lake Placid seems very cool, but I was not willing to spend that to stay in the area. There just had to be another option. So as I continued looking online, I came across the Lake Placid Volunteer Fire Department. I went onto their website, and it's literally just a web page saying that they have their own campground. You can call to make a reservation or send them an email. The website looked relatively informal, and there was no way to make an online booking. We typically don't book at places like this, but at a quick look at Campendium, it said the last price paid was $40 a night. So this was well below half price of the KOA, and the Lake Placid Volunteer Fire Department is a 20-minute walk to downtown Lake Placid. It was literally the closest option available. We gave them a quick call, and it was a thumbs up that they could accommodate us and our 42-foot fifth wheel friends at a price of $40 a night with full hookups. There's no bathhouse, so you do have to be self-contained, but this was by far the best price and plenty of sky view for us to be able to work from this location with 0 problems. So by staying at the fire department over the KOA, this in itself was a savings of $425. Yes, in theory, you could have stayed at the state park, potentially commute to a place with sky view. That would not have been the most convenient or really work realistically for the setup for exploring Lake Placid for the week. So we're gonna count this as a win for a savings of $425, and we will keep a running tally on savings as we go through the next 2 hacks.
Hack number 2 is gonna be to bring your own fun when you're RVing. So when staying at this Lake Placid volunteer fire department, it was actually right next to a bicycle rental location, and it was right next to a rail trail with a bunch of miles being able to ride your bike as long as you wanna go. So we walked over to check this place out, and unfortunately, we were disappointed with the price. So for a 2-hour rental, it was $60 to rent a bicycle for 2 hours. So for both me and Gabby, it would have been $120 just to have a little activity to do to ride our bikes out and back. Fortunately, like Gabby was mentioning, we were traveling with our friends that had their own bicycles. So we woke up one morning, it was really beautiful outside, and rode those bikes about 5 miles out and back with Lilo, so got her a little bit of exercise as well. But it was just a really nice, peaceful morning activity that saved us 120 bucks. Add that to the counter. Activity number 2 that we knew we really wanted to do while being in Lake Placid, because it was just so gorgeous, is kayaking on Mirror Lake. So it's right next to the really cute town of Lake Placid, but it has a beautiful overlook of all the mountains in the area, just spectacular views. Part of the reason this place is so beautiful is that they don't allow any motors on the lake. So it's just for kayak and paddleboarding. And there was also some swimmers in the lake. A lot of people train for the Ironman race that takes place in Lake Placid each year. So we checked the local prices to see what was the most affordable way that the two of us could get out on the water in a kayak, and that was $35 an hour for however many hours you want to go, or $150 for the entire day. Fortunately, Gabby and I bring an inflatable kayak that we actually store in our shower, and we take it around in our RV everywhere we go. So it is just an excellent way to get out on the water. So the kayak that we have that fits both Gabby and I and Lilo on the front is the Zeppelin Arrow by Boat. It is a 12.5-foot inflatable kayak, and it's been working so great for all of our adventures, can get us out on the water really whenever we want. So we were able to bring our kayak to the lake, inflate it there, and have a great time out on the water with our two friends that had their own kayak. And overall, if we were to have paid to rent kayaks, we went out for about 3 hours. So we're gonna say this is $105 in savings, and we can add that to the counter. And the last bonus thing that I'll add in here, this one doesn't add to the counter, but one thing I would highly suggest that's gonna enable you to save money while you're on the road is to have a secondary vehicle to get around. So we keep a Honda ADV 150 on the back of our RV, and this allows us to stay at places where we don't have to be walking distance in order to do activities. We can simply both hop on the bike and go explore an area and save some money while we're doing it because it's super cheap on gas as well.
And hack number 3 is to choose adventure over convenience. So let me give you an example here. When we were in the Adirondacks, they're known for their famous 46 peaks. So it's 46 peaks that they have that are over 4,000 feet. And fun fact, not all of them are over 4,000 feet. Some of them are just under because of old methods that were used, I think back in the 1800s to evaluate altitude, and they just measured wrong. But they still count all of them in the 46. And one of the most famous peaks is Whiteface Mountain. That's because you can drive up just about to the summit. You get expansive views over Lake Placid. It's just a stunning view. However, that is not free to drive up to. It costs $25 for the driver and the vehicle, and then $20 for the passenger, and $10 for each additional passenger. So if Brendan and I would have driven up, whether in the RV or in the motorcycle, they both cost the same exact amount of money, so it would have been $45 for each of us to go. We felt that was kind of expensive to go and get a summit view when that could have been the cost of like a nice dinner outing in Lake Placid. So instead, we chose the adventure route over convenience. So we actually stayed at a Harvest Host location that was near Whiteface Mountain, and we drove to the free trailhead, and we set off on a rather large 10-mile hike to summit Whiteface Mountain. We did do a bit of a detour route that took you to Esther Mountain, so we actually did 2 of the peaks out of the famous 46 in the ADKs, the Adirondacks, and at the top was such beautiful views. It was so much fun to have this experience of summiting a mountain together rather than just the quick convenience of driving to the top. I can very much so appreciate the accessibility if you are unable to do that hike yourself. However, I personally feel there's nothing more rewarding than experiencing the fruits of your labor. The only thing that was a little weird about doing the summit, though, is that it probably took us about 4 hours to get to the summit of Whiteface Mountain. And when you got to the top, there was actually a lot of people there because you can access it so easily. So on our way back, we kind of paused at some of the views and were able to enjoy the route and, if you will, smell the flowers along the way. So by us doing the hike instead of driving up to the top, we will add this $45 in savings to our counter. All right, so time to break everything down. So in our 5 nights that we spent at Lake Placid at the volunteer fire station, this was really our only cost during our stay in Lake Placid. That was $40 a night times 5 for a total of $200. And something that we didn't even note is to stay at the volunteer fire department, your cost of staying is actually a donation. So it's a donation for the volunteer fire department, which we felt made it even nicer to stay there. So we only spent $200 for all this adventure that we experienced in Lake Placid. Whereas what we could have spent if we stayed at a KOA and if we didn't bring any of our fun with us and we rented everything, this would have cost us $895, which is, what is that? That's almost 5 times as much. So in bringing our own fun, staying smart, not expensive, and choosing adventure over convenience, we were able to save $695. Lake Placid was stunning. I would say that Bren and I definitely fell in love with the cute little mountain town during staying there. And most definitely, if you do intend on visiting Lake Placid, not only check out staying at the fire department, but you must watch the movie The Miracle before going. Guys, we've learned so much in our 2 years of RVing, full time on the road so far, so we are so happy to be able to share our tips with you. So if you did find these helpful, please feel free to give this video a thumbs up. And if you want to continue following our adventures as we continue our way north, then please do subscribe to the channel to see where we go next. And we're always sharing tips and tricks of how we renovated this RV and possibly if we do get a new one in the future. Guys, we appreciate the time. We'll catch you next week.